The Maple Leafs come up big against Seattle as Nylander makes a bid for more ice time. We'll break down the win and tee up this weekend's back-to-back. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On at Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 bonus dollars in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What's going on, Dave? How we feeling on a Friday?
Feeling pretty good.
You got the Halloween out of the way, and it's now November, and the first month of the season is in the books. It's so we can, in a little bit, we'll kind of take a look at how we're feeling about the Maple Leafs throughout the first month of the season. But let's get into last night's game before we start looking forward. We'll break down the Leafs 4-1 win over the Seattle Kraken. You were in the building for the game, Dave. What'd you make of it?
I thought it was a great effort all around from the team. But I will say, I know that we get the whole, Scotiabank Arena doesn't usually have great atmosphere. I thought the atmosphere was pretty good in the building. Yeah, there were some quiet moments early in the game, but I think once the Leafs kind of got their footing and really started pushing the pace in the game, I thought the crowd was way into the game. It helps that they were winning too.
That always helps. Winning definitely helps. The score is flipped and they're down 3 Cobb in the second period. I'm not sure there's as much fanfare going on up there, and there were some really nice plays, some really, really nice looking plays like that second Nylander goal, the Morgan Riley pass, just what a feed over to Nylander. And what was the shush all about, by the way? Any theories what the shush was? There's a lot of things going around about what that could have meant.
No idea. I mean, I saw that play developing like literally right in front of my eyes. Like, yeah. It was just such a bang play. Like, shout out Morgan Riley first off. Like, just he's on a tear right now. The last few games, putting up some serious points, and that partnership with OEL seems to be working quite well for him. But yeah, I'm wondering if it had anything to do with the fact that he is. Well, I mean, I'm trying to remember who was he actually. I was trying to figure out who he was doing it to. Is it just in general, or is it?
I think he's just kind of doing it in general. Like Pacioretty was first to greet him, but like I feel like it was in general.
The eyes kind of go to a Seattle player, I think.
Maybe, possibly.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was maybe
there was some hippiness in that game. There was a lot of back and forth between a lot of the Seattle players took a lot of issues with the refs. So yeah. I am wondering it because I think there was it was tough to see from where I was. But it looked like a Seattle player was kind of skating by and Nylander was giving him the shush. That's how I kind of viewed it, but maybe there was something else there.
Yeah, at first I thought maybe he was like, let's not bring attention to it. Like, let's not talk about a hat trick. Let's not use that word and jinx it. Like, shh, true. It's all good. Hey, it's all good, right? So I thought maybe that was what it could have been, or perhaps when he had his pregame speech where he talked about how he had asked Chief for some more minutes and whatnot, felt like maybe Chief said, yeah, let's not talk about things like that in the media. So he gave a little shh, like, we're quiet now. We're quiet people now. I don't know. Like, I saw a couple of things out there and I was like, I don't know what that meant, but he only ends up with 2. They tried so hard to get him that hat trick, though.
Yeah.
Like, with the net empty, like he had a couple opportunities and was unable to put the puck in the back of the net. The one who did have a beautiful empty net goal, Auston Matthews, with 100% on his geometry quizzes, apparently. What a bank shot from Matthews. Like, that's just so... It went right down the middle of the ice. or right into the middle of the net. Like, just a perfect little bank shot for him.
Yeah, like when I was watching like that like it was getting to the point where okay, they made it 3-1. There's still quite a bit of time left on the clock. I'm like, just don't give up the next one. Like this, let's not even give them any reason to think they'll come back in this game. And then Matthews goes and he knocks it off, and I thought, okay, maybe he's just killing time. And then you like notice the trajectory. I'm like, oh no, this thing is going in. Like it
Well,
was a
he turned his body. Like I was watching it with the third period, and I'm watching with my uncle who was over for the Halloween, giving out candies with the family, whatever. So we were watching the game, and he was like, "Did he mean to do that?" I'm like, "He totally meant to do that.
Yeah, he did.
Absolutely, he did. Like the way he turned his body and shot it at that angle, like that was his full intention. I'm shooting this. It's gonna bank off of it, basically like Poole, right? Where he shot it off a bumper, was trying to go. I think it was like 8-ball corner pocket was the call from Gord, and it was a great call because that's essentially what happened. Like just such a high AQ play for Auston Matthews. So a couple of really nice goals last night to get the team fired up, and they end up with a 4-1 victory. Let's continue on the other side with the good, the bad, the ugly from the
You mean
three
the 3
stars.
stars.
It's the 3 stars of the game from last night. And then we got a back-to-back coming up this weekend, Leafs and Blues, and then Leafs and Wild. And they might be getting some reinforcements soon. We'll tell you about who is on the way back off the men for Toronto. That's all coming up next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Gametime Picks curates and makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater events, whatever you're looking to get tickets to. It's got tremendous panoramic views of your seats right in the app before you buy, and they've got the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes of the Locked On Leafs podcast available wherever you get a podcast, and also up on YouTube as well. Leafs with a big 4-1 win, a complete team effort against the Seattle Kraken. And hey, that closes out the month of October for the group, and the Maple Leafs finish out the month on a winning note. They've now won back-to-back games, get themselves over 500, and they finish off the month with a 6-4-1 record and a .591 points percentage, which is higher than their average over the last 5 years. So good start to the Berube era in the first month.
Yeah, it's you would expect to be some growing pains and some learning moments with the new coach. I thought, I think they've handled the transition quite well, all things considering. It's not an easy, it's not easy to get rid of old habits. I think there's still some that need to be ironed out and worked out there. But you look at the last 2 games, like what a way to finish off the month after, there were some concerns about the
speed bump.
Yeah, the speed bump that they went through with the 3-game losing streak. So good, you're seeing good things. I think obviously there's still some work to be done, but a lot more positives than negatives, I would say, right now.
Absolutely. It's the most games that the Maple Leafs have won in October since 2019-2020, the year that Mike Babcock got fired. They went 6-5-3, and obviously 6-4-1, a little bit better of a record. So the best year that the Leafs have had in quite some time to start things off. So that's a positive. that we could take from it. And last night, they finished off the month with a 4-1 win over the Seattle Kraken. And as we do after each and every victory for the Maple Leafs, we go through our 3 stars of the game. Dave, who was your first star?
I gotta go with Willie Nylander. I thought
Willie Nyes? Willie Nyes? I don't think you can do Willie Nyes anymore.
No, I guess
Well,
because of
just because
Matthew
there's
Nyes.
Nyes, right? So
True.
it's like there's a Matthew Nyes on the team.
I'll go Willie Styles and Willie Styles.
Willie Styles.
That was
there it is.
On top of obviously the 2 goals he scored. What I liked from his game was the hustle. There was clear hustle and purpose to his game. Just, chasing down pucks, relentless on the forecheck. That line has just been so good. These 2 games. I know short sample size, but I like the mix. Like, even like a guy like Pacioretty, he throws some hard hits.
7 hits last night. 7 hits.
Deserving. Like, there were some tough ones along the glass. Like, I can't remember who the defenseman was.
Was it the first or I think it was the first goal that the Maple Leafs got from Nylander. The play started with Pacioretty rubbing someone out along the boards and forcing a turnover. Like, that was a one board battle.
Yeah, I think I think it was that play there, but there was also another play where somebody wanted Pacioretty to drop the gloves. He didn't. And then the play kind of continued and he ran someone into the glass and just like he's playing a really heavy game right now. Obviously listening a bit more to I think what Berube is looking for from a guy like Pacioretty, which I didn't really expect to see that from Pacioretty. So, but I mean Nylander, I think his speed is what is what that line needs, right? No, Tavares isn't the fastest guy. Neither is Pacioretty. So Nylander is going to be picking up the hustle a lot, and he certainly did last night.
Yeah, I cheated, obviously. I just gave the second line just because there's a couple other guys I wanted to fit in here for the 3 stars. So I gave to the second line. Produced 2 goals. Nylander got both of them. Tavares assisting on both and Pacioretty did get an apple on the first one as well. But as a line, they had an 80% expected goals last night. 7-4 were the scoring chances in favor of Toronto. 6 of the 7 considered high danger chances. So they were really not just getting a quantity of shots on goal, but also getting the quality of shots that go with it. And it's interesting because they're being deployed in a way that allows them to succeed offensively the way that they have been the last couple of games, like tonight. 87% ozone starts. They're very much they're being, I don't know if you call it sheltered or protected, but they're not getting much work in the defensive end, which you don't want Nylander to be working in the D zone so much. And that's a big reason as to why they're succeeding is because, Tavares, win a draw, go to work. And then that team just is able to do that. And I think that this second line has found something here, and we'll see how long they can keep it together and keep it going. But the last couple games have been terrific. So I gave the first star to the second line as a whole. Your second star, Dave.
Joseph Woll.
Yep, same.
Solid. I don't think I was the one that jinxed it personally. I don't know if anything was said on the broadcast, but I did kind of say when it was 3-0, just let this happen. Let's end this game nice and tidy. Let Woll get the thing. Maybe because I said get the thing.
You don't even bring it up, dude. You don't even talk about it. What are you doing? It is your fault.
Yeah, because literally a minute later to the net.
God, come on. You know better than that.
I do know.
Anyways,
but solid night.
Yeah, really solid night. Good bounce back performance from him in his second start of the season. And that's just what we, had come to expect from Joseph Woll, right? Really calming presence, big body. He can go from side to side really well. And he's a calming factor back there for everyone on the team. So it's what we've come to expect from Joseph Woll. And the first game against St. Louis, maybe we were a bit too critical with it being his first game since the playoffs. So it'd been a while. So I think, well, I guess he did start a couple preseason games, but anyways, it still was a really good, solid game for Joseph Woll. It's exactly what you're looking for, as a team is truly looking to have a true tandem with Woll and Stolar. Stolar's has been playing well, and now you get Woll cooking and get him up to snuff, up to speed. You've got two goalies that you feel comfortable with playing on a nightly basis. The Leafs will be in good shape. They'll be in good shape, especially if they're going to play in front of the goaltender the way that they did tonight and the way they did the other night. That's going to help the goalie a lot. So it's not as though Woll had to make, a bunch of acrobatic, incredible high grade saves. I think the Leafs only gave up. He only had to make 4 high danger saves at 5-on-5 all night long. Turned them all away, but that's it, just 4. So it wasn't a super busy night for Joseph Woll. I think he had 25 shots on goal. Yeah, stopped 24, 25. So, but still got himself in front of those pucks, and that's what you're asking of the goaltender. Your third star, Dave.
I'm just gonna go with the blue line in general. I thought they were, maybe I'll give a specific shout out to Tanev and McCabe.
Yeah, that's what I got too.
Like there was not Seattle did not get many high danger. I mean, as you mentioned, really it wasn't until late in that third period did they really start to get those high danger chances. And like we were talking about in the preview, like they don't really have a lot of dangerous star caliber players. Like there wasn't anyone I was particularly worried about. And I talked about Montour, he ended up playing being hurt. But like Tolvanen, that was a nice shot. There's not really much Joseph Woll was gonna be able to do on that. But I thought they did a good job of not making sure that the front of the net was being taken care of. Right. No, there were some chances with some screens and things like that, but it wasn't anything to what I think we saw in the last time, Joseph Woll play. They gave him every chance to see the pucks, or at least not have to fend off the odd man rushes that we were seeing before. I think that's a big one, is they were doing a good job of closing in on players.
Yeah, staying on top of pucks. That's always big. We can stay in front of the puck carrier and not allow them to get past you and create those 2-on-1s. You don't turn the puck over at your own blue line. Willie did once at center ice or in the neutral zone, and it did cause an opportunity the other way. But overall, I'm with you. I thought that the blue line played pretty well, and I also gave it to the pairing of Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev. I mean, both of them with an expected goals north of 80%. At 5-on-5, McCabe had 86% expected goals, and I think it was 84% for Chris Tanev. The scoring chances for McCabe when he's out on the ice, 10-2, 7-1 high danger chance differential when he's out there on the ice. So they're not giving up anything. That's exactly what you're hoping to get out of like a shutdown duo of Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev. So it's really nice to see that pairing start to flourish a little here, as they still try and figure out what they want to do on that blue line on that back end. The last couple games have looked really good for these pairings. So that's I also gave them my third star of the game. So that does it for the 3 stars. Basically, Nylander gets a star. I gave it to the whole second line, and then we both gave some acknowledgement to Joseph Woll and the blue line with Tanev and McCabe getting the real star for the Maple Leafs in their 4-1 win over the Seattle Kraken. They've got 2 games this upcoming weekend against St. Louis and against Minnesota, and they might be getting some reinforcements sooner rather than later. We'll talk about that on the other side. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NHL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as always. Maple Leafs with a back-to-back this weekend. They've got the St. Louis Blues Saturday night, hockey night in Canada, and then the next night they are in Minnesota taking on the Wild. And I feel like those Minnesota games have always been kind of, pardon the pun, wild games for the Maple Leafs of late. It just feels like there's always been, some sort of storylines coming out of those games. So it should be a fun weekend for the Maple Leafs and a good test against two teams who are playing pretty well, especially the Wild. They've been one of the best teams in the NHL to start the year, and then we obviously saw what happened last week against St. Louis. So Toronto definitely looking for a bounce back against the Blues as well.
Yeah, it's one of I really want to see how they do in the second go round against St. Louis, especially in St. Louis, first game back for Berube in St. Louis.
I think they crush them. I really think they're going to crush the Blues. The Wild on the second night of back to back. We'll see how that game goes, but I think they got their game in order right now to lay a beat down on this Blues team.
A little bit like a little message sending, a little okay. You got the better of us last time. It's not going to happen a second time around.
Yeah.
The game will be against the Wild, which I'm really intrigued about, and we talked about it offline the other day. Was Kirill Kaprizov.
Unbelievable. Yeah, he's having a hell of a start to the season. Hell, is he leading the league right now in points? I know he's kind of been flip-flopping there with Cale Makar. Mark Stone's up in that mix too. Like they've had a couple of guys who are doing really, really well. But yeah, Kaprizov's having an unbelievable start to the season.
Yeah, 18 points in 9 games. Like,
is that good? I don't know. That seems pretty good.
And I'm pretty sure he's eligible for a contract extension at the end of the season. Might have a little thing. I know that the owner is just like we're gonna make sure that this guy's sticking around.
Yeah, he's gonna get paid. He gonna get paid.
So he's one off the scoring lead. Makar is 19 points, ridiculous, and Mark Stone, which, well, I guess he's healthy.
Yeah, finally for the first time in like 3 years. Yeah.
Him and Eichel have been crushing it this year for Vegas. But yeah, it's I'm really looking forward to that matchup. I mean, you usually just like you're worried about. This is again another test for this defense, right? How they go up against a guy like Kaprizov. And like Minnesota's had some, they've had some ups and downs. I don't know if you watched the other night with Fleury in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Pretty emotional night, and they were able to beat the Penguins, which I mean that's not saying too much because a lot of teams are beating the Penguins right now.
A lot of teams doing that these days.
But yeah, it's been a weird, like the Wild have been doing pretty good. They're third in the division, but they've had some ups and downs. They've had some tough losses, but I mean obviously more wins than losses. But
I think there's 6-1-2. Pretty good start to the year.
Yeah, so like that Central Division is tough. That's a tough division. So if I'm the Leafs, I'm expecting this to be it's gonna be like, especially offensively with the way the Wild you're gonna try your best to handle that top line and have someone else try to beat you on the Wild. So it's gonna be I mean obviously we're the Blues game. You don't want to brush a game off too much, but I mean,
yeah,
that's a game where you just handle business, and like the real test will be on Sunday.
So what do you do for your goalies?
I think you go. Actually, I wonder. We talked about this last time. Joseph Woll. Do you play him in his hometown? His hometown. Give him the St. Louis game, and then you go. I know usually you try to give your AK 1A guy the first one, but I like to see what Stolarz can do against the Wild, right? That's not an easy test there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it depends if Berube feels that way too, right? Will he want to give Woll the game in St. Louis?
For me, it would have made more sense if maybe you go Stolars, you give Stolars both the Minnesota and the Kraken game, and then you come back and you get Woll in night 1 against St. Louis, and then you can come back at night 2 with
Yeah.
Stolars. But now it just would feel weird with Woll getting back-to-back starts,
Yeah.
right? Getting Kraken on Thursday and then also getting St. Louis now on the Saturday. It's like, oh, but maybe that's what they want. Like technically, at the beginning of the year, they wanted Joseph Woll to be their 1A. They wanted him to be the guy. And now that he's healthy, maybe they are trying to slowly but surely morph him into that role. Perhaps that is the case. Like that could be the case. As much as Stolars has played great the first few weeks of the season, long term, I think they still believe that Joe Woll's the better goalie. He's the younger goaltender. He's the cheaper goalie also, and signed to a longer contract. So maybe this is just a way of them trying to shoehorn him back into that role where he gets 3 of 4 starts or 3 of 5 starts or whatever it ends up being. And potentially this will be the first time that he gets back-to-back games. Could see it.
You could see it. That I was surprised. That Woll got the Seattle start. But I also just think that you can't go wrong either way. I mean, they're both going to play, and there's going to be a lot of games. This is where we get into like the November grind, right? Like November is usually the tough grind. There's going to be, I think they have a homestand coming up. They have a 3-game homestand. Just looking here, they do have a back-to-back next week.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Saturday, Sunday again.
So like they're gonna have a lot of games, a lot of tough games too this month. So you're gonna need both guys
for sure.
Yeah, you need more reinforcements too, I think, this month as well.
Well, it sounds like they're gonna get to them. That's a hell of a transition there, Dave. A couple of guys coming back off the mend. We had talked about the need to make a trade, and they finally did with Timothy Liljegren, and why it was so necessary to happen right away is so they could activate a couple of guys off of LTIR. Well, looks like a couple guys might be getting activated very soon. The Leafs have assigned Yanni Hakanpää and Connor Dewar to the Marlies to get on a conditioning stint to get them up to speed so they can play a couple of games before having to jump onto a moving train up here in the National Hockey League. So Hakanpää and Dewar are going to get a couple games down in the minors playing with the Marlies before coming up and being a factor here with the Maple Leafs, which I would expect both of them to factor into this team. They're good enough players where I think that they will certainly be, considered among the top, 6 defensemen and top 12 forwards. But yeah, so they are going to get some reinforcements. It does mean that there's some guys on the lineup right now who are there that aren't going to be able to be there if 2 guys get called up. 2 guys got to get sent down or traded or waived or whatever happens. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Leafs decide to do moving forward and how long this conditioning stint lasts.
Yeah, that's part of it too, right? How long is the conditioning stint going to last? I would say maybe neither guy played in preseason, so like they haven't even played any hockey. So like I think that's going to require a few, like maybe 2-3 games potentially. I mean, depending on how they're feeling. And I know that we hadn't planned on talking about this, but apparently Elliot Friedman's making it known that Matt Benning could potentially be a guy that's on the move again. His stay with the Leafs might not be, a long one.
Yeah, and I didn't think it would be because, again, like we talked about, there's a strong probability that when Hakanpää's ready, he could be waived. So if there's a team who's willing to bring Benning on and they could use him as a trade chip and get an asset of some kind back for him, yeah, that'd work out. Did he say any teams that might be interested?
No, he just said like the Leafs will try to flip him.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
It makes sense too because they have, I know that Benning's got a lot of experience here, this and that, but they've got a logjam right now. Right. Funny, all these years, the Leafs has struggled to even get any right-hand shot defenseman. Now they've got so many that, I mean, it's a good problem to have. It's always good to have some depth, but yeah, if I'm Matt Bank, I'm kind of hoping that there's a trade that'll get him to a place where he's got a better chance to play.
Yeah.
And like with his contract, that's an easier move, right? A team that trades him and they give him a shot. If it doesn't work, then they can just send him down to the minors. Which, I mean, the Leafs could also do that too if they can't find a trade partner.
Yeah, yeah, and then if they send him to the minors, he will still have a cap hit of 100,000 against
Yeah.
him, just because that's the difference that the Maple Leafs will have to pay, because you can only bury 1.1 million of cap space into the minors, and he's got a contract of 1.25 million. So the difference will have to remain on the books. So I guess the Leafs would rather just move that whole thing, that whole contract. And that's this year and next, by the way. One other thing I want to bring up, actually, and it's something that maybe we can we can go a little bit more in depth on over the weekend, but I just noticed that, when I talked about the second line's utilization and how they have like 87% ozone starts, it made me think, like, okay, so there's got to be a line that's getting buried in the defensive end, and it made me think about, what's possibly a reason why Matthews isn't scoring a whole lot. And it's because the way that like Chief is utilizing that top line is a lot different than the way Keefe has in the past.
Mhm.
And it's not to say that we didn't expect for this to happen. I think a lot of us did, which is why if listened to a lot of betting pundits, they said, I would take the under on Matthews goals because they're a little high considering he had 69 last year. His total was at like 58 and a half or something, 62 and a half, whatever it was. Like, it's going to be tougher for him to find goals because Chiefs asking them to play a different way and they're being utilized differently. Auston Matthews, to this point in the season, through the first month, has a career high 43% D zone start. 43% of his starts are on the defensive zone. That's up from 33% last year, just 25% the year before, and 30% the year before that. So that's a pretty significant jump in D zone starts. So, when you're not starting in the O zone as often, you're starting in your own end, it is harder to generate offense. Now, they've done a good job of doing so, right? Last night, really nice tic tac toe goal when they got that offensive zone start
Yeah.
for Matthew Nyes. But traditionally, they've started a lot in their own end, and I mean they have trust from the coach that they can get it done. Unlike Nylander, Pacioretty, Tavares, a couple guys who aren't as defensively sound at this point in their careers, don't have the foot speed to keep up. So it makes sense, but it is maybe something that speaks to the lack of offense at this point compared to last year for Matthews and that line, because his D zone starts have been ramped up to 43%, which is 10% higher than it was a year ago. Just
Yeah,
something to keep an eye on.
like in watching the game, like there were a lot of times defensive zone draws. You saw Matthews, Marner, and Knights going out there.
Yeah.
Which again, as you mentioned, we hadn't really seen a whole lot, in the past. We've seen them like they're we know they're defensively responsible, that they are capable of doing it. It's just you don't always want you having your best offensive players also doing a lot of defensive zone draws. I will say that I thought Marner had some really good moments. In that game, he had one heck of a back check. I can't remember who stripped the puck off of, and then there was a really nice block shot. Like there's those things like that don't get highlighted all the time. I thought there were some good moments there, and yeah, I think the offense will come. I mean, it's going to be one of those things where they're going to have to make some adjustments to. Like I thought Matthews was sometimes a little too perimeter with the puck when he was skating down. I would have liked to have seen him be a little more direct and go to the net rather than bounce out. But these guys are taking long shifts, right? And a lot of defensive zone starts they're not exactly being put in those prime positions to start. And I will say the power play, it looked a little better. I'm really
power play.
Yeah, where I'm seeing the struggle though is the setup. If they don't start with the face-off win, it's almost like that unit is lost.
Yeah, that power play is a lost cause if they don't win the original draw. Lost cause. That does seem to be a trend so far this year for the Maple Leafs on the power play. All right, Dave. I think we'll leave it there. Should be a fun weekend upcoming. That'll do it for us today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on X at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Enjoy your weekends. Couple fun games for the buds. Go Leafs, go. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.